November 17th, 2023, 2:03 a.m., Donetsk Oblast, Eastern Ukraine. A Russian mechanized column advances through complete darkness. No moon, heavy cloud cover, visibility 0. 17 vehicles, BTR armored personnel carriers, BMP infantry fighting vehicles, supply trucks, moving at 15 kilometers per hour along a rural road. Headlights off, night vision non-functioning. 4 kilometers away, 3 Ukrainian tanks wait in ambush positions. Engines cold, thermal optics active. Watching. By 2:47 a.m., all 17 Russian vehicles are destroyed or abandoned. Every single one. 0 survivors reach their destination. Ukrainian losses, nothing. This is IronBullet. And what you're about to witness isn't just superior technology defeating inferior equipment. It's the resurrection of something militaries thought was extinct. The decisive advantage. The kind of one-sided engagement that shouldn't exist in modern warfare where both sides supposedly have similar capabilities, except when one side can see and the other is completely blind. The official report calls this a successful interdiction operation. Precise, professional, understated. The reality is simpler. This was a massacre, and the detail that made it possible, the reason 17 vehicles died without landing a single effective shot, isn't about having better equipment. It's about the tactical choice to operate when your advantage is absolute and your enemy's vulnerability is total. Night operations. Older than warfare itself. And still, in 2023, the deciding factor in who lives and who dies. Stay with me, because this 44-minute engagement is going to show you why sensor advantage in darkness creates killing efficiency that no amount of armor or firepower can overcome. And why the Russian military, despite knowing about thermal optics for 40 years, still sends columns into the dark without them. Let's establish the technology gap. What thermal imaging actually does. Standard human vision requires visible light. Photons reflecting off objects into your eyes. No light, no vision. Simple physics. At 2 a.m. on a clouded night in rural Ukraine, there is effectively 0 visible light. Human eyes see nothing. Even adapted to darkness, maybe you see shapes at 10 meters. Maybe. Night vision devices, generation 1, 2, 3. Amplify available light. Stars, moon, ambient glow. They work by intensifying whatever light exists. On a completely dark night with heavy cloud cover, they're marginally better than naked eye. You might see 50 meters instead of 10. Not enough. Thermal imaging doesn't use visible light. Detects infrared radiation. Heat. Every object warmer than absolute 0 emits infrared. Vehicles, especially vehicles that have been running, are significantly warmer than background temperature. A thermal sight sees that temperature difference as clear image. Range. Modern military thermal sights detect vehicle-sized heat sources at 3,000 plus meters. Identify vehicle type at 2,000 meters. Target effectively at 1,500 plus meters. In complete darkness. Through light fog. Through smoke. Conditions that render visible light optics completely useless. This isn't minor advantage. This is binary capability gap. One side sees, the other is blind. Everything else is secondary. Ukrainian tanks in this engagement, mix of T-64BV and T-72 variants upgraded with Western thermal sights. Not cutting-edge systems, but functional. Generation 2 minimum. Good enough to see clearly at the ranges that matter. Russian column vehicles, primarily older BTR-80 and BMP-2 variants. Night vision capability, Generation 1 passive systems. On vehicles where they're functioning at all, many aren't. Maintenance, parts shortages, years of neglect. The technology gap isn't new equipment versus old. Its functional sensors versus non-functional sensors, maintained systems versus degraded systems. And in darkness, that gap is the difference between combat effectiveness and helplessness. November 16th, evening. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones observe Russian staging area 28 kilometers from front line. Thermal imaging on the drones shows vehicle heat signatures. Count 17. Mix of combat and logistic vehicles, fuel trucks, ammunition carriers, troop transports, intelligence assessment, resupply convoy. Probable night movement to avoid Ukrainian artillery and drone strikes during daylight. Route: rural roads through agricultural area. Minimal civilian presence. Limited Ukrainian defensive positions. Ukrainian response: position tank ambush along probable route. 3 tanks, small force. But in darkness, 3 tanks with thermal optics equal overwhelming advantage. The positioning is critical, not just where, but when. The tanks move into position at 11:47 p.m., more than 2 hours before expected Russian movement. Engines off, vehicles cold. By the time Russian column departs, Ukrainian tanks have minimal thermal signature. They're cold metal in cold air, nearly invisible even to thermal sensors. This detail matters. Temperature equalization takes time. If you shut down a vehicle that's been running, the engine stays hot for hours, radiates heat, shows clearly on thermal. But cold vehicles that have been stationary for hours, much harder to detect. They blend with ambient temperature. Ukrainian tankers wait. Hatches closed. Thermal sights active but not emitting, and passive sensors. No electronics that might give away position. Just watching. Patient. 1:58 a.m. Russian column departs staging area. 17 vehicles. Estimated 140 soldiers. Plus supplies. They're moving without lights. Standard procedure for night movement in combat zone. Trying to avoid detection. It doesn't matter. Ukrainian drone operators track them from departure. Thermal imaging from 2,000 meters altitude shows every vehicle clearly. Ground temperature 4 degrees Celsius. Vehicle engine temperatures 40-80 degrees Celsius. The thermal contrast is massive. Drone operators relay position updates to tank commanders. Real-time intelligence. The Russians don't know they're being tracked. They have no way to know. Their electronic warfare systems might detect radio transmissions, but they can't detect passive thermal observation from above. 22:03 a.m. Russian column enters the kill zone. The ambush is positioned along a road section with open fields on both sides. No cover, no concealment. In daylight, this would be suicide terrain for the ambush force, too exposed. But in darkness, exposure is irrelevant. The Russians can't see them anyway. Ukrainian tank commanders watch through thermal sights. The Russian column appears as bright white silhouettes against cool black background. Crystal clear. Every vehicle, every spacing interval, every vulnerable point. Lead Russian vehicle, BTR-80 armored personnel carrier. 8 wheels, 14.5mm machine gun, carrying approximately 8 troops. Commander has Generation 1 night vision device. He's scanning, looking for threats. He doesn't see the Ukrainian tanks 1,400 meters to his left. And that range in darkness, his night vision sees nothing but black. The Ukrainian thermal sights see him perfectly. Ukrainian commander makes tactical decision. Let the entire column enter kill zone. Standard ambush doctrine. Don't fire on lead elements. Wait until maximum targets are exposed. Prevent warning. Prevent escape. The Russian column continues. 7 minutes to fully enter the ambush area. 17 vehicles at 50-100 meter spacing, stretched over approximately 1,200 meters of road. They're vulnerable. They don't know it. 2:10 a.m. Final vehicle enters kill zone. Ukrainian commander gives fire order. 3 tanks, 17 targets. Priority: disable lead and trail vehicles first. Trap the column, then destroy everything in between. This is the moment where technology becomes lethal. The Ukrainian gunners have been tracking assigned targets for 7 minutes. Range solutions calculated. Thermal crosshairs centered. Just waiting for the order. First salvo, 3 shots, synchronized. All within 2 seconds. Target 1, lead BTR-80. Hit. Penetration. Vehicle immobilizes. Catches fire. Crew evacuates into darkness. Ukrainian thermal sights track them. Secondary machine gun fire. No survivors. Target 2. Trail BMP-2. Hit. Catastrophic ammunition detonation. Fireball illuminates the night for approximately 4 seconds. Vehicle destroyed instantly. Crew dead before they knew what happened. Target 3. Fuel truck in center of column. Hit. Massive explosion. Fuel ignition. Fire spreads to adjacent vehicle. 2 destroyed with 1 shot. Russian column reaction time. None. They don't know where fire is coming from. The muzzle flashes are visible, but at 1,400 meters in darkness, identifying exact position from muzzle flash is nearly impossible. And there's smoke, and confusion, and vehicles exploding. Russian commanders try to respond. Standard doctrine says locate threat, suppress, maneuver, but locating requires seeing. They can't see. Some vehicles fire machine guns in estimated direction of threat. Tracers arc through darkness. None come close. They're firing at where they think the threat might be, not where it actually is. Desperation shooting. Ukrainian second salvo, 3 shots. 3 more vehicles destroyed. The thermal sights make it simple. Target. Range. Fire. Heat. The Russian vehicles show as bright heat signatures against cold darkness. Perfect targets. One Russian BMP commander attempts evasive maneuver. Tries to leave road. Move into field. Find cover. The vehicle accelerates. Thermal sight tracks it easily. Moving target isn't harder to hit when you can see clearly and the target can't. The BMP travels 80 meters before Ukrainian round penetrates engine compartment. Vehicle stops. Crew evacuates. Machine gun fire cuts them down. 2:14 a.m. 4 minutes into engagement. 8 Russian vehicles destroyed. 9 remaining. Survivors are trying to scatter. Some reversing. Some attempting to advance past the killing zone. Some just stopped. Crews abandoning vehicles. None of it matters. The thermal advantage is total. Every movement is visible. Every attempt at concealment is futile. The Ukrainian tanks systematically engage each vehicle, one by one. Russian troops attempt to fight back. Infantry dismounts, takes positions, tries to locate Ukrainian tanks. Some have RPG-7 anti-tank rockets. Effective weapon at close range. If you can see the target, they can't. They fire in estimated direction. Rockets streak through darkness. Miss by hundreds of meters. One hits empty field 200 meters from Ukrainian position. Does nothing. Ukrainian response, high explosive rounds, air burst over infantry positions, thermobaric effect, no survivors in impact zone. 2:21 a.m. 11 minutes into engagement, 14 Russian vehicles destroyed or abandoned, 3 attempting to escape back along the road they came from. Ukrainian tanks reposition, move to alternate firing position, still maintaining thermal observation. The escaping vehicles are tracked. Range increases, 1,800 meters now, then to 100 meters. Doesn't matter. Thermal sights maintain lock. The fleeing vehicles are still clearly visible. Hot engines, Desperate speed, perfect signatures. 3 shots, 3 hits. Final vehicles destroyed. The entire column is eliminated. 2:23 a.m. Engagement effectively over. 20 minutes from first shot to last. 17 vehicles destroyed. Estimated 110 plus Russian casualties. Ukrainian losses 0. Approximately 40 rounds of main gun ammunition expended. No damage to Ukrainian vehicles. No casualties. This is the kind of kill ratio that seems impossible in modern warfare. 17-0. 100% effectiveness. Complete destruction of enemy force without loss. It's not impossible. It's just rare. Because it requires specific conditions that rarely align. Absolute sensor advantage, appropriate terrain, enemy tactical mistakes, and operational surprise. Tonight, all 4 conditions existed. The result was inevitable. But here's what the statistics don't show. The cost, not immediate cost. Ukrainian forces took no casualties, but strategic cost, opportunity cost. The cost of choices not made. Those 3 Ukrainian tanks were positioned for this ambush for 14 hours. From 11:47 p.m. the previous night until after the engagement ended. 14 hours, during which they couldn't support other operations, couldn't respond to other threats, couldn't reinforce other positions. Ukraine doesn't have unlimited tanks. Every vehicle committed to one mission is unavailable for everything else. The ambush succeeded. But what other operations went unsupported because these tanks were waiting in darkness? That question has no clean answer. Maybe nothing else happened. Maybe the ambush was the highest value target. Or maybe Ukrainian positions elsewhere took casualties that 3 tanks could have prevented. This is the hidden cost of successful operations. Resources are finite. Committing to one engagement means accepting risk elsewhere. The ambush killed 17 Russian vehicles, but at what opportunity cost? We don't know. Neither did the Ukrainian commanders who made the decision. They evaluated probable value versus probable cost. Made the call, it worked, but it might not have. And if the Russian convoy had taken a different route or moved during daylight, those 3 tanks would have achieved nothing for 14 hours of commitment. This is the reality of tactical decision making. Perfect information doesn't exist. You estimate, you commit, you hope probability favors you. Tonight it did. The Russians moved predictably. The ambush succeeded. But probability isn't certainty. It's just better odds. Now let's address the question everyone's avoiding. Why didn't the Russians have functional thermal optics? It's not because Russia can make thermal sights. They can. Russian defense industry produces thermal imaging systems, not as advanced as Western systems, but functional, good enough. The issue is distribution, maintenance, priority. Russian military has thermal sights. Elite units have them. Reconnaissance units, some tank battalions. But not everyone. Not even close. The military is too large. The equipment too expensive. The budget too limited. So choices get made. Priority units get modern equipment. Everyone else gets older systems. Or broken system. Or nothing. The convoy that died tonight was logistics and line infantry, not priority. Their vehicles had mounts for night vision systems, but the systems weren't installed, or weren't maintained, or broke and weren't replaced. This isn't unique to Russia. Every military has equipment distribution problems. Limited budgets force prioritization. But in Russian military, the gap between elite and standard units is extreme. Elite Russian units with modern equipment are dangerous, competent, well-equipped. But most Russian units aren't elite. They're standard. And standard means outdated equipment. sometimes non-functional equipment, because maintenance is expensive and budget is limited. The result are units like tonight's convoy, moving in darkness with night vision that doesn't work. Against enemy with thermal optics that do work, the outcome is predictable. This is a strategic failure masquerading as tactical loss. The tactical loss was 17 vehicles. The strategic failure was sending them without equipment to survive. 3 questions from the beginning. Time to answer them. Why was the kill rate 100%? Because thermal optics in complete darkness create binary advantage. One side sees perfectly. The other is effectively blind. When sensor advantage is absolute, kill efficiency approaches 100% assuming competent employment. The Ukrainian tanks employed thermal advantage competently. Total enemy destruction was mathematical result. Could the Russians have prevented this? Yes, multiple ways. Don't move at night without functional night vision. Use different routes. Move during daylight with air defense. Use decoy convoys. But all those options require resources, training, and doctrine they didn't have. The prevention wasn't tactical. It was systemic. Fix the equipment. Fix the training. Fix the doctrine. They did none of those things. The ambush was consequence. What does this engagement teach about modern warfare? That sensor advantage in darkness remains as decisive as it was 40 years ago. Technology exists to eliminate night as obstacle, but only if you have it, and maintain it, and know how to use it. The side that masters night operations has massive advantage. The side that doesn't get slaughtered in darkness. But nothing about this is new. It's just newly demonstrated. The lesson from November 17th isn't that thermal optics are revolutionary. They're 40-year-old technology. The lesson is that having better equipment means nothing if you don't field it. Maintain it. Integrate it into doctrine. Russian military knows about thermal sights. Has known for decades. Still send convoy without them. That's not technology failure. That's institutional failure. Ukrainian forces exploited that failure perfectly. Patient positioning, disciplined fire control, systematic target engagement, everything correct. The result was predictable once Russians entered kill zone. But this level of success is rare, requires specific conditions. Enemy mistake, terrain advantage, sensor superiority, tactical surprise. Most engagements don't have all 4. Tonight did. The result was historically one-sided. Will it happen again? Probably. As long as Russian units operate without functional night vision in environments where the technology gap guarantees similar results. But each engagement teaches. Russian units that survive spread lessons. Eventually, doctrine adapts. Equipment prioritization changes. The gap narrows. Until then, night belongs to whoever can see in darkness. And in Ukraine, increasingly, that's Ukrainian forces with Western thermal sights. This is IronBullet. We analyze the battles that change wars. And this night engagement changed nothing. That's the point. It demonstrated principle that's been true since 1980s. Thermal advantage in darkness is decisive, not revolutionary, not surprising, just brutally effective when properly employed. The road where 17 vehicles burned is quiet now. Wrecks cleared, asphalt scarred. Local farmers will find debris in fields for years. Spent shell casings, vehicle fragments, evidence of what happens when 19th century tactics meet 21st century sensors. The 3 Ukrainian tanks moved to different positions the same day. Standard procedure. Don't reuse ambush sites. Enemy learns, adapts, returns with artillery or drones or different tactics. One-time advantage, exploit and move. That's the calculus of modern warfare. Subscribe to IronBullet, because in modern warfare, the side that owns the night owns the battlefield. And ownership isn't about courage or training. It's about thermal optics that work. 17 vehicles destroyed. Zero friendly. That's systematic exploitation of technological advantage against enemy lacking that technology. Simple, brutal, decisive. If you think night vision still matters in modern combat, type IronBullet in the comments. If you think other factors matter more, tell me which ones. Because this debate shapes procurement, shapes doctrine, shapes who lives and dies when darkness falls. November 17th proved thermal superiority creates massacre conditions in darkness. One engagement, one night, complete destruction. The Russians knew this was possible. They've known for decades. They sent the convoy anyway. That's the real story. Not Ukrainian tactical skill, though that was real. Not superior technology, though that mattered. The real story is institutional failure that sends soldiers into darkness without tools to see. That's not tactics, that's negligence. And the price is 17 burning vehicles and 100 dead soldiers who never saw what killed them. Real battles, real tactics, real consequences. Stay vigilant.